Welcome back to the Ninja Chuan podcast. My name is Isaac Kamens. This is our final episode of season 4. We complete our look at the martial arts of Taiwan in the 1970s and 80s. We finish up with a final look at Zhang Jun Feng's Bagua from Blurred Boundaries. This is a dialogue by Zhang Jun Feng, sort of explaining to his student Heng Yishang the finer points of Bagua. And then in the Patreon, we get into first a bit about the Taoist monk that actually edited the Neijing 2, and then we finish up our look at Zhang Jun Feng's book, which heavily focuses on the Neijing 2. So check it out. Hope you enjoyed the season. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us. Take care of yourselves and be well.
In today's episode, number 36 of season 4, we're going to wrap up the season by finishing our discussion on Bagua by Zhang Jun Feng from the book Blurred Boundaries by Heng Zihan. This is where Grandmaster Zhang Jun Feng is giving his general advice on using Bagua and training Bagua. And since we started the whole season out with Master Heng Yishang and his training under Zhang Jun Feng, we thought that that would be a nice way to sort of bring it full circle and wrap things up. So the first thing he says is that the biggest characteristic of Bagua is that palms are employed more than fists. Among them, the most important method is the piercing palms. When the piercing palm reaches out, the spiraling force is like a steel rasp drilling out, forcing the opponent to make contact. As soon as contact is made, you will immediately pull back with your wrist with a reverse rotation, and your fingers should grasp the opponent's wrist like a thorny steel hook and yank down. The purpose is to disrupt the opponent's balance. He then loses the ability to defend. So that's it's pretty standard in Bagua, the emphasis on palms. Most schools have that approach, obviously. And piercing palm, every school has piercing palm, Chuanjiang, where you drill. Some schools, that's their primary attack and their main thing. And he's using it here as the way to get the opponent to force the opponent to make contact using
Well,
spiraling force.
right, and that description of sort of how you put it out there as this sort of bait almost, right? But it's like a hook or like a
Yeah.
fishing
Well, it
rod.
has a steel rasp, like you're grinding against them and forcing them to push back because you're like,
You're putting out something that's going to attach to them essentially,
yeah,
and then very quickly,
yank.
yanking it, hooking,
Ah!
right? So the idea
Thorny steel hooks.
that like you're not just banging that thing into their arm. It's a
Mm.
you know it's trick, right? It's like the first one isn't just gonna smash into them. It's gonna rapidly change into a hook or a
Well,
pier.
that's that spiraling force, right? As you
Right.
make contact, you're twisting in the air rather than a log shooting out. It's a rotating, he
Yeah.
says rasp, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what do you call it? A scraper, a file, kind of filing rasp.
Which is, I mean, again, what is a rasp? It it has friction.
Creating
It creates,
friction. Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
it's
You're
that.
scraping. They've got to respond. You can't just lay there as you're getting rasped. You got to like push
Well,
back or
this is that idea
react
of like
somehow.
the sticky thing, but the
Sticky's
sticky
another
is
way.
it's
Yeah.
not just sticking to you, it's pulling, it's
Yeah.
ripping you, it's kind of doing something to you in a
Mm.
sense, right? I
And
mean,
like he says, you did that by that's how you disrupt them and they lose the ability to defend because they're too busy responding to what you're doing. So it
right.
creates the advantage. So he talks about the 8 different palms. He says, this system I practice is based on the Baguazhang of Grandmaster Cheng Tinghua and my master Gao Yisheng, who spent a lifetime of effort refining the original palms. So then he talks about the Gao style palm. So they smooth body palm they call the snake following palm, and then dragon piercing palm would be closer to double palm change in most schools. And so there's a variety of just all the names there, and then then adding the 8. Uh, so he says the eight pre-heaven palms combine and become named the swimming body consecutive Baguazhang. So that's Yu Shen Lian Huan
Right.
Baguazhang.
The smooth body. linked
consecutive,
forms.
linked form. Yeah, sometimes they call it linking. Yeah. At the same time, the fighting applications taught by these sages were reclassified and reorganized according to usage and characterized as post-heaven Bagua 64 palms. The post-heaven palms are designed to intensify combat effectiveness. There are hand techniques, elbow methods, and body methods. There are throwing methods, leg methods, and joint control skills. To facilitate learning and use, they are all left and right side single exercises. So there you have it. The idea of Gao style Bagua is you take out a lot of the favorite applications of Cheng Tinghua and Gao Yisheng and created this 64 palm set where you can
Well, and
just
it's interesting
break them
that you
down
said
one at a time.
you take them out and you kind of regrouped them by
Hmm.
type,
Yeah,
essentially,
divided them
right?
more.
So
Yeah.
rather than being sort of quote unquote in order, right? They're grouped by
Right. You pulled them out and grouped them by
yeah,
usage,
right,
basically.
sort of by what they're doing rather than quote unquote where they are in the
And
form.
yet, like all things Bagua, every single one of them has throws, kicks, and locks, like just about. You could make a throw out of any one of those, even though one set's more the throwing set and one's more the kicking set and one's more the grappling set or
Well, I mean, you could
whatever,
argue that all of them you could probably do with the single and double palm change. I
pretty
mean,
much.
but it's separate, right? I mean, that's kind of the whole point is that it's saying, okay, like there are many techniques wrapped inside of these funny little circle movements,
Yep.
but
Here's some examples.
right, well, and just for the sort of I don't know, ease or quickness or effectiveness in terms of learning to use them, it's a lot, more to have a more organized grouping by technique or by, whatever, like just makes it easier to translate that into, combat essentially, right? You're not having to learn as much stuff that's like it's not hidden, but it's like you have to rather than having to learn how to do multiple applications for one thing, you're just learning multiple techniques the way you would in like Xingyi, for example. And I think it's a more direct way to get to how you apply it on another human being.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It gives you a chance to focus. So then he talks about the other components, the other component of Gao style Bagua, the Tiangan or the celestial stem. So he says, in addition, to increase the force of one's release of energy, this school has yet this school yet has a set of exercises to strengthen the tendons and fortify the bones called the 10 celestial stems. They are extracted from the pre-heaven and post-heaven palms. They are called move, chop, hang, collide, button, crush, grasp, sway, obstruct, and relax. 10 commonly used movements to specially strengthen the central axis of the body, the dragon pillar, and the four limbs, connecting the main muscles and traditional Chinese medicine channels of the body core. If you practice patiently according to the key principles, you can achieve the magical effect of shedding one's mortal body and exchanging one's bones, returning you to your pre-birth state. This technique is to develop your innate energy, but the real key lies in the word diligence. If a person cannot diligently practice daily, it is like he has learned a peerless martial art but is unable to display its true greatness and value. Ouch. So yeah, there's those 10 Tiangans we've talked about before that are from the Gao style that it's spread in Master Hung Yishang's martial art, I'd say primarily is where most people know it. And there's quite a few different versions of it, but it's they can be done in extremely low stance or in a tall stance. There's a variety of ways, but it's interesting that he says he really puts a lot of value on it. He's like, you can achieve the magical effect of shedding your mortal body and exchanging your bones, returning to the pre-birth state. That's straight out of Taoist alchemy, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, this is like everybody's got their secret sauce, and it's sort of
Yeah.
um,
This is Gao
it
style's, at least
generally
this
is that
version,
there
Yi
you
Zong.
have to have something that's like not you need a way to build up the fundamentals essentially, right? So you could do this through a Negong, You could like in Xingyi, generally it's done through standing.
Mm.
Um, Tai Chi, it's done through cloud hands essentially, or something like that, where you're just repeating one movement over and over. Um, so again, it's just like you said, these are taken from all of these movements appear in the forms somewhere,
Hmm.
right? So it's like
Extracted, yeah.
you're just taking out the basic techniques, right? So like I said, all schools will have some version of this where you'll do a basic chop, a basic punch, a basic whatever, just as before you start putting them together in a sequence of things, right? You sort of learn to do them as individual
Yeah.
techniques, right?
I'd say this type of training in this case is done alongside. This could be the warm up
Right, but I'm
mixed
saying
and
like
matched with what you're
if
doing
this
that
was
day.
a if you were doing this as a shingy thing, right? It would be doing like say you're doing bone trend or something, right? This would be doing it just as a side to side thing, right? Because I actually think that's one, isn't that one of the
That is one of
Tincons?
the Tiancon. That's
Yeah, right,
push. So
right. So we know
just
where he got
stand there
that one
doing Bong
from,
Chun
you
without
know,
stepping. Yeah.
right. But it's just, it's the way of sort of isolating a
Yeah.
technique,
Right.
or
And you're going to
part
be
of a
doing this so
technique.
often, you want it to be really good. So you just
Right,
pump it
or
away.
with P-Tran, it's doing it as like a sort of a big swinging chop with both arms, kind of, right? So you get into just, how to do it like, uh, like the kindergarten version, right? Just the big shapes of the things in a very relaxed, kind of comfortable way of doing it without a lot of detail, right? Because there's a certain development that happens. I mean, in Bruce's system, I think same thing in Wang Shu Jing's, it's the energy gates, right? It's the cloud hands and the swings. So, the place where you develop like what all that stuff you said about, leaving the immortal coil or whatever the fuck, that's
Right.
where you do that in your Neigong practice, right? Because that's where you're going to learn the fundamentals, the body mechanics, the basic energy movements, the structure, all of that shit. So that then when you go and put it, try to do the more difficult forms, you've got something to, base it off of. So I think of it as it's like, it's your scales, right? There's lots of,
Yeah.
there's lots of ways people learn to, um, navigate their instrument, right? You can do it through scales, you can do it through, exercises where you're just moving your hands in certain ways, right? But you need to do those things in order to really perform better, right? And so, like I said, it's just, I think in any discipline, you kind of have to have a separate container where you learn that and then you have to fold that back in. Otherwise, it just gets kind of lost in the. I mean, even in Tai Chi, where a lot of times I mean, I'll use Ching. They've got that bear thing that they do. That it's not their main thing. Like a lot of people don't even really practice it that much.
Hmm.
But that's where if you get stuck in a sense, they've got this thing that you go back to that will work through whatever the glitch is, right? And I think these exercises are just his version of that. They're just a little more like physical than say like a qigong set or whatever, right? Like eight brocades is another real common one that people use as like
Sure.
their sort of fundamental
Yeah. Yeah. And
practice.
these Tiangons are, Low referred to it as the oil in the engine. So, like, he's like, of all the things, this is the one that keeps everything operating and smoothly. And
Yeah.
you can see there's a lot of, you're trying to return to a pre-birth state. That's not your average warm-up set. Like, this is meant to really transform your body and
Well, I
twist it
mean,
into a certain shape. So it's got high,
but that's
lofty
literally the
goals.
same. That's like the Guion thing, right? I mean, you're returning to the S.
Yep.
You're trying. I mean, that's what all the
Absolutely.
stated purpose, pretty much, of all Neigong is
Yeah.
that, right? And so,
Yeah. And here you
no,
have
I
it
mean, I
right
think
here in Bagua.
what he's saying is basically this is accomplishing both.
Yep.
Uh,
Just like the circle walk, the mud stepping, you're accomplishing
yeah, it's
something
it's your
more than
physical
just
exercise
combat.
and your Neigong combined into one
Yeah.
activity, essentially, right? Which just again, it's like you get a twofer. You get the learn how to do the physical stuff that you're going to need to do Bagua and
Yeah.
get this other sort of health benefit essentially.
Yeah. So now on to the fighting concept. So Bagua Palm's combat strategy is to take the enemy's line of advance and retreat as a reference point, extending it forward and backward as a central axis, and then lock on this line, shuttle back and forth across it, and constantly use the penetrating palm to disturb and lure the enemy, waiting for the opportunity to ripen, then cutting in from the flanks, attacking with the superior offense of your two hands, taking his one hand. That's a very long sentence.
Yeah,
But
that's trying to describe a lot of a very simple thing with a lot of words.
yeah. It's like your enemy has a line where they can move back and forth, and so you disrupt that and break their line of motion to disturb and lure them, waiting for the opportunity to ripen, then attacking from the flank. So
Right.
finding a way to flank them, basically.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's wait for them to come, well, wait for them to start moving so you know where they're going, right? But you don't
Right.
wait till for them to get to you. You then
Use a penetrating palm, the
you
piercing palm.
right. So that's the doing, that's the feint, right? That's the you send some troops out to, you know,
Harry the line.
they shoot a couple rounds. Now you know where they are. Then you have your other guys creep around and flank them from both sides. So they still think you're in front of them, but that you're on the sides. And then
Hmm.
boom, and so it's that idea of like you got to do something to get their attention going one direction, and then
Yeah.
you whack them on
Right.
where
And
they're
so
not.
he's saying you shuttle back and forth across their movement line. So you're like disrupting their position until they screw up, and that's when you come from the flank.
Well, and if you're constantly like just that's the like shifting your weight back and forth or like
Hmm.
stepping from side to side, right? If you're doing again, it's the moving target, right? That if you know if the sniper's trying to take you out, right, that you run in a zigzag because it's a
Right.
lot harder to hit something that's zigzagging in front of you than it is if it's just coming straight at you, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is you're constantly like kind of changing angles, moving around, so they don't have a clear that their straight line can't get to you. And when they adjust to go a different direction, that, gives you your opportunity, right? So
Right.
this is why like it's somewhere in there it's basically hinted at the idea, your your best angle against their worst, essentially.
Yeah, that's
The
exactly.
positioning is to get it so that whether it's one hand or two, that effectively whatever they're doing isn't it doesn't land on you essentially, and then whatever you're doing goes directly to the worst possible angle for them. So a lot of this sort of like pushing and pulling and lifting and twisting and all those words essentially are kind of like directions and techniques, right? So once you get that angle, you can pull the guy down, you can lift them up, you can chop them, you can kick them, you can it's like but there has to be that opening for you to do it.
Yeah. It says Baguazhang adopts an indirect flanking style of attack in battle. Once you have buttoned down your opponent, use full force to yank them on a transverse plane, and then immediately switch to a direct surge to launch an attack toward his side. In the end, it is the center that has been captured, a kind of dynamic center. It may sound abstract, but you will understand it slowly after practicing.
This is like you pull them straight down and then you whack them in the ears.
Yeah.
I
It's like
mean,
the multiple angle Bagua. I think of like, say, okay, a Bagua person advances, they deflect. He puts a throw on the person, but while they're in midair, yanks the other direction at the same time. So your full body force gets jerked while it's going one way. So then you twist your neck before you hit the ground. Instead of throwing
right.
them straight on their face, you twist on the way down to
Well,
make it extra impactful.
it's the infinity symbol, right? There's always a whapa, back and forth kind of in a circle.
Exactly. The minute you're going one direction, the goal is to just chop from an oblique angle and break up that structure and just make it worse at all times. Yeah, it's something that's hard to describe, but if you tangle up with a guy like Lowe or Kumar or whoever, they can do that thing of
Well, I mean,
multiple
on a
directionals at the same
well,
time.
it's I mean, on a real simple thing, right? It's like when you get like when adrenaline kicks in, basically one of the things that happens is people just start going straight,
Mm,
right? And so this idea of like, that's just throwing haymakers or whatever. They just start like right? And part of this thing is that if somebody's doing that, coming at that straight angle is just, it's like you're gonna bang right into them and something's gonna go bad, right? So
mm,
it's this idea of slightly shift the angle, then that thing's not gonna hit you and you can hit them instead. But it takes a presence of mind to not like when the bull is rushing at you, right? That you're the bullfighter, and that
hmm.
the first thing you got to do is go, okay, I can't be in front of the bull, right? You got to move out of the way. And that's what I was saying about, you have to distract the bull with the cape so it keeps going straight, and then as it goes straight, you can change an angle and come to the side, right? So it's like,
Right.
so, practically, it's basically you do the piercing palm to their face or their throat, and that gets them to kind of go, back up a little bit. And while they're doing that, you slightly shift around and slap them in the side of the head with the palm strike or chop them in the neck or something, but it's on a
Right.
sideways angle, not straight
Right.
on. So
Right.
they're
Right. Right.
still
Mixed side and straight,
Yeah,
basically.
so they're still going, they're going as they're going back, then you pull them forward and they get that whipping effect. I mean, it's like you get
And
the
then slap the face, hook the feet kind of thing. Chop the leg out from under them while they're
yeah,
blocking it from
there's
above.
no like there's no they never get like when it happens to you, like you said, it's just and you're just on the
Right. It's
ground.
just a
It's like you have
flurry.
no idea what the fuck happened because you're just getting hit from all sorts of angles and it's
Yeah, it's very creative at its best. It's really
I think
effective and
was
fun.
it Earl Montague that said, "Oh, Bagua was the art of overkill."
Right. This is the overkill
Just
side
that
of it.
like you're not just hitting them once and then stepping back and trying to hit them again. It's like you're hitting them three times, and it's like yeah,
It's great when it works. So it says different from Xing Yichen's direct attack. Baguazhang chooses a more indirect and three-dimensional style of play. It will first use the method of button, pick, enter, lead, yank, and obstruct to destroy the opponent's balance. First, guiding the opponent in a false direction to make the opponent misjudge. When he forcefully tries to reverse direction, you then reverse direction in your attack. It instantly confuses the opponent and forces the flow of blood to reverse. So that's what we were just talking about. You
yeah.
go one way, they jerk back, so you go extra that way. You pile it on.
I mean, this is
Give them more of
basically
what
the
they get.
same principle of Aikido, right? I mean,
Some
in a
ways.
way, right? It's that, you lead them in one direction. As soon as they kind of commit to that direction, you flip it around, and
Yeah.
it's like
Suddenly turn.
except this is happening in little micro movements instead of these big, throwing type of motions. But it's that same principle of, the again, I mean, I just said this, but the infinity symbol, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's constantly changing back and forth from one, angle to another. And so the attack is the defense and all that shit.
Yeah. He says these kinds of tactics to bewilder and misdirect the enemy are not simply a back and forth direction. It uses left, right, left, left, right, right, left, right, down, left, right, forward. These seemingly random continuous assaults, people fundamentally don't know how to defend against them at all. So
Right.
yeah, I like that it's just fundamentally random.
Well,
It's
I
just
mean, this is what I was just saying, that when adrenaline it's also what a lot of people train, but the idea that when your adrenaline sort of kicks in, all of your punches start just being like at the person's head essentially. You
hmm.
just or whatever, they're just flying around aimlessly, but they don't really have I don't know, an intelligence to it, right? And part of what he's saying is, your strikes are going to go from high to low to the side to up to down, and they that constant changing of where the strikes come from, just it is something that people just your your mind, unless you've trained a lot, your mind cannot focus on that many things at once, and so you freeze, right? You
Hmm.
just, you block one of them and then get hit by the other, right? So again, I mean, it's just like a lot of the way a lot of techniques in Bagua, it's you're doing three things at once, right? You got two hands and a foot coming at the person,
Yep.
so that one of those is going to get through, and then that's going to determine, like if your foot gets through, that's going to mean it's probably going to be a sweep or a throw. If your top hand gets through, it's going to be a chop to the face. If your bottom hand gets through, you're going to
Hmm.
cut their ribs or grab some flesh or something. It's like, so but there's again that ability to like go up and down and side to side and
Yeah. So he sort
change.
of covers this by saying, of course, this style of play requires close coordination of body shape, hand technique, and footwork. It is a more complex and superior style of play. If you lack the foundation and actual combat experience, employing such complex maneuvers to face the enemy is, conversely, very dangerous indeed.
Yep.
So yeah, don't try any fancy stuff. Work
Yep.
your way up to it and don't think it's just gonna work and it's gonna not gonna look as pretty as the technique. Let's put it that way.
Well, right. I mean, that's where there are a lot of really cool techniques in Bagua,
Yeah,
and they're very
beautiful
like,
techniques.
intricate and like
And genius,
just
inspiring,
yeah,
amazing.
but you're going to use those, one in 50, maybe one in 100
Right.
times, where, the basic techniques you're going to use 90% of the time. And so you're better off, if you want to be good at it, do the stuff, you know, that do a few techniques really well first and build off of that. Don't just think, oh, look, I learned a new fancy ass technique. You'll just get crushed, if you do that. It's like,
So he says, if you can mix and match Bagojong and Xingyi Chen, you can achieve a complementary effect. When the situation permits, use the overt energy of Xingyi to directly capture. When the situation is not obvious, use the circuitous outflanking strategy of Bagojong to cut in from the side. The two fists complement each other to boundless miraculous effect.
yeah, I mean, it's you.
That's the philosophy of Yi Zong right there. Pretty
Yeah, and I
straightforward.
think somewhere in there you throw in a little Tai Chi as well. But basically the
Right.
idea that,
Right. A little just in case you got a little Tai Chi.
well, I mean, it's sort of like what to do if you're stronger, what to do if they're stronger, and what to do if you're not sure. Right? It's like,
Hmm.
if you've got them, you can just take that direct Shinyi
Wade
approach,
in and
right?
start pounding.
If you know that that hitting them isn't going to do anything, you need to do something to, get them to fall on their face, or, like, their momentum has to take them off balance. You're not going to be able to do it on your own. And then well, if you don't know, you have to do that thing of kind of get them to expose themselves, right? That thing we were talking about earlier.
Right. That get him from the flanks. Yeah, I mean, in the bottom line, I think both of us would agree with the concept that Bagua and Xingyi combined is just it takes more work to learn two different martial arts. One of them would be just fine, but there's a beauty and a poetry of using them both together where they really complement each other. And I learned
Yeah, I
Bagua
mean,
first, and I had a good sense of the movements. I did Aikido, so it made sense and the fluidity, but I never really had any power behind it. And then after meeting you doing some Xingyi, suddenly I could see where that structure and that extending your force out more blended so well that it just made such a natural fit. Everything works way better once you've got I don't know, the two of them just make for a chocolate and peanut butter kind of effect. It's just perfect.
yeah, I mean, this is what Bruce always said, and I think it's to some degree it's true, right? That essentially Shingy does the basic training. In Bagal would be considered the post heaven training, right? The the body, structure, fighting application stuff. It does that better than anything else.
Mm,
Like it just goes right to it. Like you get structure, technique, bam, 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 and there's like very little wasted movement, right? You're not doing a lot of stuff that's just transitional or that looks cool or that somebody thought was fun to do, right? Like for me, the core training was five elements first, single, double palm change second, right? And you
hmm
kind of get that core piece, as a that becomes your thing. So, I don't know how to describe it, but like all of that together becomes something that's integrated. Is a good way to put it, right? And then you have essentially, like I said, you've got a yang way of dealing with things and a yin way of dealing with things and a not sure way of dealing with things, right? And then Tai Chi kind of adds this other element to it of which is what do you do if you can't just get an angle and clobber the dude, right? Like what
hmm
happens when, hitting him doesn't work, right? Like, because
Mm,
that's where you're like, uh-oh, I've never
that's a
had
bad feeling.
yeah. And that's where Tai Chi, I think, takes that sort of enticement thing that we were talking, that's
Mm,
baiting, and it takes it to the ultimate degree that, they're sort of lurching forward and falling over almost.
right.
You better just can just blow on them and they'll fall over, right? Where Bagua just does it a little bit so you can whack them. And it's kind of,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just enough so now you can
yeah,
drill them with a brutal shot from a cheap shot from the side.
yeah,
Tai Chi, you got to roll all your dice. You kind of got to go all in and let them enter your space, which is of
yeah.
the
And
three,
that's
that's the scariest, you know.
right. And all of that can be negated by doing things like poking people in the eyes or, yanking their ear off or something, right? Because,
That's always
you know,
an option, I
doesn't
suppose.
matter how strong you are, if you poke someone, your eyeballs aren't going to get fucking stronger,
Right.
So, but I think part of what these guys, when they refer to this, is they're talking about how to do it in a way that's like, it's not neutral, but let's just say it wouldn't get you landed in jail for murder. It's like it's you have plausible deniability kind of
Right. You
like, I didn't
shove
do it. He
someone
just
into the its way of the subway.
yeah, well, that's why I love the Tai Chi thing of, no, man, he just came at me and I moved out of the way and he tripped, like I didn't do
Pretty much.
anything.
It's the beauty of the internal martial arts. So the chapter ends with Master Hung and Grandmaster Zhang Jun Feng talking. He says, "When martial arts practitioners talk about martial arts, they seldom just talk with their mouths. The two talked with increasing excitement. Lively fists and feet flew as student imitated master in the not so spacious living room. Hung Yishiang, under the enthusiastic guidance of Zhang Jinfeng, finally formally entered the realm of internal martial arts, a peek into the wisdom and mystery accumulated by Chinese martial arts over thousands of years."
Right. Well,
I guess that's where we're going to end it for season
we've brought
four.
it back all the way to Hung Song starting over again.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's quite a journey. It's one of the best seasons we've had in terms of like
Yep.
I feel I've learned a lot over the past couple seasons, and then that it sort of gave us a basis to dig into some of these masters and go further in our breakdown of some of these articles. So it's been a good season. We've been really focused on Taiwan and the schools of thought that sort of led to the martial arts we've trained. The schools we're a part of, these are the masters that sort of drew to
Fill in some
those.
of the gaps.
So yeah, we didn't really touch on much about the mainland or other places, so it's been really focused, which is great because a lot of great writing has come from Taiwan and from Robert Smith on of people going
Sure.
to
Yeah.
Taiwan and learning this stuff. So some of the best books take place there. There's more material maybe from the mainland, but not as much character in it, kind of. There's like a lot of instructional books, but not so much about
Right.
the history, especially since politically over there it's harder to talk about the past without accidentally,
It's a
getting
different
in trouble.
style too, I think. I mean, there's more of a adventurous quality to this one,
Yeah.
more just the like, this is my way of doing it, and this is my, structure and blah blah, like it's just kind of like you said, sort of like a
And
text.
Taiwan's such a mixing place between East and West, where it's
Mhm.
so for a couple hundred years, there's been Japanese and Dutch and American influence there. And so it's easy as a foreigner, it's easier for me to jump into that world and get a sense of Chinese martial arts. The mainland's a much different topic, and I'm sure next season we'll
Yeah,
get more into that.
we got time to explore that too.
Yep, no doubt. All right. Well,
All right,
great
man.
working with you.
Yep. Talk soon.
Bye.
Hey, folks. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll be back soon with more. Next season, we're going to be continuing our sort of profiles of different masters. We're going to focus on some more uh, guys from more recent times and get into some of the stuff that came to the West. So hope you enjoy it. Stick with us. Thanks again. Take care of yourselves. And as always, you can follow us on social media and all that stuff. We'll be posting some things along the way. We got an interview during the break, so that's coming up. So again, thanks again. Take care of yourselves and be well.